Hello YouTube and welcome to episode 3 review of Arrow, titled Corto Maltese. In this episode, Thea, no, sorry, Oliver, Roy, and Diggle go to Corto Maltese to find Oliver's sister, Thea, to bring her back home. Ultimately, she does agree to it and does come back home. Um, I also want to touch upon this. I haven't talked about the past two episodes, although I've kind of made a mental note that I forgot while recording the reviews. The new logo, it's kind of reminds me a lot of the little pennant that Oliver gave Thea in the season premiere, or the series premiere rather, of season 1. That little pennant thing that he says it symbolizes unity. It kind of reminds me of that, Chinese with symbols on it like that. It's really cool. And also, before we get in top 5, I wanted to mention that there was a really cool reference to Green Lantern. Laurel says crime, and this guy she goes after is wanted in Coast City for assault. Coast City, of course, being referenced to Hal Jordan. So that was really cool to see. There have also been other references in The Flash in episode 1, of course, with Ferris Air. So that's kind of cool to see. Okay, so now getting into the top 5. Trick arrows and other arrow stuff. Um, the episode for Arrow opens with him chasing this guy and ends up shooting an arrow that's like a zip line, kind of. It kind of like wraps around the guy and pulls him back. So it's really cool that now we're introducing more trick arrows. Maybe we'll get to see the box glove arrow this season. And Stephen Amell did tease that the directors and whatnot may have figured out how to incorporate boxing glove arrow. We're really cool to see how that works out. And then a scene when they're in Corto Maltese and they're helping Diggle take down this guy. This is kind of like the side story for Diggle. He's helping Lila take care of something in Corto Maltese. Oliver ends up making bows and arrows for himself and Roy out of literally stuff in his apartment, like the blinds and rods and the lamp thing. Like you have the lamp cover, you have the little bulb, and then you have like the staff thing. He used part of that. Like that's ridiculous that he's able to do that. I thought that was really cool to do. So that's number 5. Number 4 is Laurel's development. Um, she's very, very angry. Doesn't know what to do with all the anger from the end of episode 1 and last episode with Sarah's death. And we see her venting the anger toward when she interrogates Ted Grant, who then offers to train her at the end of the episode. And when she interrogates him about some guy who robbed a store the night before. And at the end of the episode, Laurel does go to Ted Grant after asking Oliver and him rejecting her. She goes to Ted Grant, who of course becomes Wildcat in the comics, to train her. So it's really cool to see because Wildcat trains a lot of the Justice League members in the comics how to fight. So he'll be training Laurel. So she's on her way to become the Canary. Already, she tried to do vigilantism, dressed in the black coat and kind of like ski mask against the guy I mentioned earlier who wanted in Coast City, and she ended up losing. But she did feel some kind of accomplishment that she felt like she was doing something good, other than like drinking herself half to death like she had been last season. So that's good that she's pulling herself out of alcoholism, but she's getting into vigilantism now, which is really worrying for Oliver. But it'll be fun to see her path becoming the Canary, but Ted Grant training her and whatnot. So that's fun. Number 3, we have Nisa Al Ghul returns, and at the very end of the episode, Oliver is talking to Roy, and we hear an arrow being, I don't know, pulled back on a bow, and Oliver gets up, and it's Nisa, and said, "Where is Sarah?" So obviously she knows Sarah's not alive anymore, so she's gonna be on pissed. In episode 4, next week is the 200th, no, 150th. I'm sorry. We're nowhere near 100th or 200th. Hopefully we'll get to the 100th in this show. That it'd be really cool to see the show to go that far. But tomorrow, or next week, is the 50th episode of season 4, titled "The Magician." It'll be very much centered around Nisa Al Ghul returning and looking for Sarah, and we will see Ra's Al Ghul in this episode for the first time in the season. So that's really, really cool. League of Assassins starting involved in the season because Sarah's dead. So really cool to see how this kind of unfolds. Number 2, Felicity's development. Um, in this episode, we see her full-time job with Consolidated working alongside Ray Palmer, and she's given Oliver's old office. She refuses to make coffee like she did with Oliver. She accidentally broke their espresso machine earlier last season. Um, And at the end of the episode, she leaves to go see Barry. As we know, has been released that episode 4, Felicity, will be in the Flash. So she is at the end of this episode for Arrow leaving to Central City to go see Barry in Central City. That'd be really cool to see how they interact in Flash episode 4. And she basically says she does something really big. She like fixes something that all the technical holidays say cannot be recovered, and she recovers the data on it. And now she asks for time off, and she says, "My friend has been in a coma for 9 months. Now he's woken up." And Rip Homer says, "Okay, go." And so now she's off to Central City. That's really cool to that that the show is incorporating. Both the shows are just overlapping so much without really showing each other in each other's shows yet. Even though we're about a third of the way, we are a third of the way toward the big crossover event, which I'm really, really excited for. Um, Flash versus Arrow, episode 9 of The Flash, and then Arrow episode 9, The Brave and the Bold, are the two crossover episodes. So that's really cool to see. And then number 1, Thea's development. This episode is very much Thea related. Of course, the end of the last episode, we see Thea being trained by Merlin, and she says, "Thanks, Dad," after he says, "Good job." And this episode, the flashbacks are centered around Thea being trained by Merlin. So it's really cool that we get to see Thea. We get to see John Barrowman playing Malcolm Merlin again. First time both characters have really been seen in the season so far, so it's been really interesting to see how Oliver gets Thea to come back home. She tells him the truth. He tells her the truth about how Robert died by suicide to save him. And he pretty much convinces her by saying that their mother sacrificed herself to save her, and that Robert sacrificed himself to save Oliver. And even though that Malcolm may be Thea's blood um, father, that Robert was her father. If that makes any sense, like kind of a you understand. Hopefully, if you don't, comment below, and I'll try to explain it again in the comments. But then at the end of the episode, Merlin says, "Beat me in a fight. You're not ready, but prove yourself." And so Thea proves himself and beats Merlin in a fight. It's kind of implied that he let her win, but the fact that she's come so far in the past 5 or 6 months is astounding. How much she's been trained by Merlin. So then, of course, Thea goes home, and all's happy with Team Arrow, with Thea coming home and all that. So yeah, that is my review for episode 3 of Arrow. This was definitely the weakest. I was expecting Oliver to see Merlin in this episode, but we did get to see a teaser for next week, tell the magician that Oliver will be meeting Malcolm in the next episode. So that'll be really interesting to see what happens there. So because of that kind of disappointment, I'll have to give this episode a 3.5 out of 5. Episode 1, best season premiere of the show so far. I'd give that one a 4.5, and last episode I have to give that a 4. So we are unfortunately having a slow decline in the quality of the episodes, but I think next week will be 4.5 or 5, with Malcolm coming back to Starling City, Ra's al Ghul being shown for the first time. Big episode next week. So until next time, I've been Epic Hammer. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, and tune in for more Arrow, Flash, and Gotham reviews, more episodes of Super Mario 64 and Pokemon White version 2. And until next time, God bless. See you then.